All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. There are so many people here. It's so nice to see you, which is actually good because it's kind of a chilly and rainy night. That said, though, why don't we get started? We'll begin, I guess, with the pledge of allegiance. So we would stand and flag. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right, let's do the reading of the mission statement. Ms. Hughes, would you please? I'm surprising you, I know.
Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community.
I have been waiting so long to call on somebody. Thank you. Got that out of my system. It's great. Thank you. We'll do the roll call now. Ms. Green, if you would.
Sure. Mr. Needleman.
Here.
Mr. DeFranco.
Here.
Dr. Etlin. Mrs. Green.
Here.
Mrs. Hubley.
Here.
Mrs. Hughes. Mrs. Lipinski.
Here.
Dr. Taratusky. Mr. Bedard.
All right, the board at its discretion may videotape all or any portion of public board meetings subject to the limitations set forth in policy 006 meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on the Friday afternoon following each board meeting. We're going to turn now to reports and information, and I'm going to, Dr. Yannicone, forgive me, I'm going to jump the line a little bit. Mr. DeFranco, I'm going to turn to you and just to fill us in on some finance information.
Thank you, Mr. Needleman. Obviously, we are going to hear a detailed report about the proposed final budget presentation this evening. However, before we got there, we actually had a finance committee meeting last Thursday, April 20th, 8 a.m. In attendance were myself, Ms. Hughes, Ms. Lipinski, Dr. Taratusky, Mr. Bedard, and then we had Dr. Yannicone, Ms. Green, and Ms. Jenko. In addition to discussing the budget, we also reviewed the series of 2023 bonds. The result of the competitive bid of the $10 million borrowing was reviewed. We did successfully come in with an interest rate at 3.99, resulting in approximately $2 million in savings over the life of the bond from what we were originally projecting. So this is great news. The impact on the 2023-2024 debt service costs is approximately $175,000 below the original projected expense, which is terrific. And then we went on to have the budget update, which rolled into what we're going to be covering this evening. So I don't want to be too repetitive. We'll move on unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. DeFranco. Dr. Yannicone, we'll turn to you for administrative reports, please.
Okay, well, first we're going to do the proposed final budget presentation. As Mr. DeFranco mentioned, we presented this initially in our finance committee on April 20th, and we're happy to be able to provide that as well tonight. I am going to share my screen so that everyone can see the slides. All right, can everybody see that okay? Terrific, all right. So as we've done in previous years, we've started with our guiding principles and working with the administrative team. And I'm not gonna read this to you, I know you can read the slide yourself, but essentially we are keeping our mission statement, that concept of high achieving, resilient, and responsible students as our primary focus, and making sure that we have a rich, broad-based curriculum, technology resources, continued beautification of the campus and maintenance of the campus in order to provide support for our students and staff, professional learning opportunities for our staff. With regard to growth and development, I thought it might be worthwhile to just highlight a few of the areas where our community has gained success in various aspects of this year's budget to help with a reflection as we look ahead to next year's budget. So we have had continued excellence in student achievement. Our students in the performance mid-year had returned to pre-pandemic levels in both math and ELA. This was a tremendous success and the result of the really hard work of our teachers and administrators, and certainly not typical of what we're seeing nationwide. So we're very happy to report that we've had continued excellence in that area. We do attribute that in large part to the supports that have been put in place as a result of the ARP ESSER funds, our social emotional supports, as well as some of the staffing positions we've added, including positions in special education and math specialists, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. We were able to complete the middle school athletic fields project. Many of you know that we just had that grand opening a few months ago, and we're very happy with those athletic fields to date. We've added a number of flexible learning spaces at the high school to support our lunch and learn period, which is allowing our students to really have the opportunity to gain educational support and social activities during the course of the school day. We are in year one of our improved cybersecurity measures, our 5-year plan. We continue to learn, unfortunately, of school districts across the country who are experiencing cybersecurity threats. We're very happy that to date, our measures have been effective in mitigating those impacts. We've had some wonderful off-campus special education services through the addition of the supervisor of special education mid-year. We've expanded our building security staff at the secondary level. Our middle school students all received new Chromebooks in September, and our staff all received new Chromebooks in September. We've added an esports lab at the high school, and our middle school and bus garage roofs have been partially replaced in order to continue ongoing maintenance. And as you know, we've done some additional branding enhancements throughout the campus to bring a sense of unifying pride to the district. So we do feel like we've made good use of this year's budget, and we're looking forward to next year. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Green.
Thank you, Dr. Yannicone. So we're going to take a look at where our funding comes from. So you'll see that big blue piece of the pie. It's about 78% of our budget. That's local revenue. And the lion's share of that number is made up through real estate taxes. Then you'll see in the orange shaded, that's our state funding, and the green is federal funding. That makes up about the rest of the 22% of our overall budget. How is that revenue allocated? We go to the next slide. We take a look at how it's parsed out on the expenditure side. So if you look at the two blue shaded areas, that is where the crux of our student learning and supports come in. So the darker blue is our direct instruction. So that includes human resources as well. So that's our teacher salaries, that's classroom learning, anything that directly impacts student learning is that blue. So that makes up 55% of our overall budget. And then you add into their support services, which is our counseling, our psychologist, our administrative staff, facilities. That makes up the other 31% of that 86% of our overall budget, which you would expect those to be the largest number because we're service oriented. So that is where you want to see the majority of your money falling. The other areas in non-instructional activities are your athletics and community service areas, and then our debt service, which that is our annual debt payment that we pay every year. The next slide. So in our budget planning, we started off by adopting the board approved and accelerated budget opt-out resolution back in November, if you recall. That was to say to the taxpayers that we are going to create a budget that does not exceed the 4.1, which is Act 1 index. At the March 9th Finance Committee meeting, we had our first look at our proposed budget. And at that time, it was recommended with a 3.5% tax increase and use of about $1.4 million in fund balance allocation. At our April 20th Finance Committee meeting, we presented the proposed final budget. And I'm happy to say that we are now recommending a 3% proposed tax increase with use of about 1.1 million in fund balance allocation. That is on the agenda for this evening to be approved by the board. Next steps, the final budget is to be approved at the June 6th interim board meeting. We do not anticipate any major changes from the proposed final budget. Taking a quick look at how the budget process works. So the business office, myself and my assistant, we established the revenue budget. We look at 5-year historical trend data. We look at current economic climate, and then we use external data such as Berkheimer projections and the state budget to make some forecasting for those areas. And then the next step, and this is the big part, it's the human resource part, the business office, along with the human resources department, which is Ms. Care. We create the personnel budget. Our salary data is derived from our contractual agreements, which you all know we have successfully negotiated all contract agreements in the district to date. And then benefit data is derived from contractual agreements and certified annual rates. And then at the department and building level, the building administrators or budget administrators create a zero-based budget. We continued this from last year's and we build upon this. So they start at zero-based budgeting methods, and then they build the budget from scratch. And they also use a 5-year budget to actual history in order to assist them with creating the current budget or the budget that will be approved. Another thing that goes into where we land with a budget is the state of the economy. So we've kind of shifted from the pandemic talk into where we are with the state of the economy, which the pandemic is still trickling into our state of economy on the financial end. So as of March 31st of this year, the inflation rate in the United States was 5%. That impacts the cost of goods and services. So there has been some shifting in our budget to make sure that we increase our line items to be able to support this inflationary rate. Things that are driving the inflationary rate is supply chain issues. Those still remain. And rent and food costs continue to be a contributing factor in the increase of inflation. As you know, the feds, they try to increase interest rates in order to decrease the inflation rate. Something that's causing it not to come down to where they project it to be is that rent and food cost is still driving that. The other piece that our economy impacts our budget is competitive job market conditions. That impacts the rates for our contracted services, such as substitutes, our custodial and security services. Dr. Yannico?
As you know, we continue to be very fortunate to have ESSER grant funding, ARP ESSER funding through September of 2024. So this will be the last academic year for the use of those grant funds. Our goal will be to utilize all remaining funding by the end of the summer of 2024. So among the areas that we are currently using these funds for are staffing for the elementary math specialists, the 2 math specialists, 1 at each elementary school. And we have 2 special education teachers whose salaries are currently being covered by the ESSER funding. It is our intention to move those into the general budget for 24-25 so that those positions can be retained moving forward. And Ms. Green has done a great job of projecting out how we can roll those funds in order to make sure that we don't lose those positions. In addition to that, we continue to have mental health resources and student supports available and to be utilized by families, whether those are individual therapeutic supports on site or whether they are resources as one that you'll be voting on tonight, which is the opportunity for us to bring in a well-regarded national speaker on suicide prevention. We have a number of social emotional learning programs in place. We've been reallocating those funds through the ESSER grant funding. We are paying for the cybersecurity plan through the ESSER grant funding. We intend to continue with security staffing at the high school and the middle school. We're looking right now at a flexible furniture plan that we're excited about in the high school library, which will be another space for students during lunch and learn to be able to really meet and collaborate and to find a more upgraded, comfortable space for them to learn and read. And then in addition to that, we have allocated resources for security cameras, lighting, and staffing to increase the safety of our students and staff. We just got some terrific news about a new grant and some reallocation of funds. We're going to be able to do all of the security cameras that we had initially intended to do over 2 years. We're going to be able to do in 1 year. So we're really excited about that. It's going to upgrade the systems, not only at the middle school, but also at the high school and at Erdenheim, all in 1 year. So we're excited about that.
Okay, so we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of the numbers, so bear with me on this. So we are recommending a proposed final budget with a 3% proposed tax increase. I am going to read these numbers just so that they are read and we don't have to keep repeating them. But anticipated expenditures for this proposed final budget is $69,635,218. with anticipated revenues of $68,524,377. The difference will be supplemented from fund balance at $1,110,841. This is an overview of the Act One history. It provides us from 2015-16 when Act One was implemented. It shows the Act One index, and it looks at the increase that our district has done over those times. So it gives a side-by-side comparison. And as you see, and you go down, we kind of work backwards up, you'll see that what we're trying to do is, while the tax increase has gone up, we're trying to lengthen the gap between the Act One index and what our tax increase is. So you'll see over the last couple of years, and especially this year, I'm very happy to say with the recommendation, we are 1.1% under the Act One index. So I think as we continue to move towards that and create that gap, we will do what we need to do to create fiscally responsible budget, and we are doing the taxpayers what we need to do for them. So this provides a snapshot of the different tax increase options. So like I said, at the first look, back in March, we recommended a 3.5% increase. And then from there, we take a look at going down 0.25% and up to 5% to just give you a balance of what it would look like and what the impact would be on revenue, the homeowner, and as well as fund balance. So I'm happy to say we added the 3% column because that is what we are recommending this evening. If you look at impact on fund balance, that number is a little bit different than what I am proposing, but I will show you how we arrived at the 1.1 instead of having to use the 1.7. I'm not going to go through this, but what this shows is a snapshot, and you'll see the same thing for expenditures. It shows a snapshot of our approved budget from this year. It looks at our first look budget that we did, and then shows the proposed final budget. So you can kind of see line item by line item, some of the changes or some of the things that stayed the same. Same thing with expenditure. We did the same exact thing, the approved budget from this year, and then you can see the differences between the proposed budget and the difference between the proposed final budget. So the changes that happened to the budget assumptions that got us from the proposed budget, which was our first look budget, to our current proposed final budget. And this is where I'm going to explain the difference in the 1.7 impact on fund balance versus the 1.1. So what ended up happening between that time period is that we had a net increase in revenues of $122,711. We were able to decrease the tax rate from 3.5% to 3%. We were able to adjust interest earnings up to reflect market rates. We are, Ms. Jenko and I are doing a very aggressive job of investing our money and making sure that we're taking advantage of those higher interest rates. So we are seeing the fruits of that. Facilities usage was adjusted up to reflect the opening of our newly opened middle school athletic fields. So we anticipate that those fees will go up because there will be uses on that additional field space. As Dr. Yannicone relayed, we got approved for a PCCD health and safety grant that was not included in the original first look budget. So that was peeled in as well. And then we were able to adjust our access funding, which was also grant funding, to reflect anticipated expenditures. So that netted again in an increase of $122,711. On the expenditure side, we had a net decrease of $181,614. That is attributed to attritional savings that we had in salary and benefits. We had some retirements come through, so we were able to have some savings in our salary and benefits line item. And as Mr. DeFranco relayed, the news that we got with our series of 22-23 bond issue finalization, we were able to have some significant savings there from when I first budgeted. So with those net changes of $304,325, we were able to reduce the impact on the overall fund balance from 1.7 down to 1.1, as we were able to shift down from a 3.5 to a 3.0. And I will go back to Dr. Yannicone.
So we do realize that any increase to taxes can be a concern to the taxpayer and to our community. So we wanted to make sure that we shared with the community, what are you going to get for that additional approximately $165 a year? And so these are some of the items that we worked on in this budget. So first of all, on staffing, as you know, we negotiated and successfully settled a contract with our largest bargaining unit, the STEA. We all know that we are in a staffing shortage nationwide and certainly locally. We wanted to continue to make sure that our salaries and benefits package is competitive to continue to bring excellent staff into the district to work with our students. The cost of that contract you can see there is approximately $1.3 million. We think that is well worth it to get great instructional staff for our students. But certainly there is a cost associated with that, and that was factored into the budget. In addition, there are smaller increases in year 2 of our SDST contract. Again, a competitive area where we want to continue to offer salaries and benefits that will bring good people into Springfield. Our Act 93 agreement are our administrators, and this is the 2nd year of their contract. And then we did have a confidential agreement reopener and extension, which cost a small amount of money overall to the budget, but important to be able to continue to make sure that we have terrific administrative assistance and confidential support across the district. In addition to that, we have 3 new positions. The first, the supervisor of special education, we discussed mid-year. Ms. Rage has been with us since mid-year, and that is already bringing significant impact positively to the district as a result of better management of our off-campus students, as well as Carson Valley. In addition, we are adding a psychologist to the district at Enfield. This is allowing us to have a heightened level of both therapeutic and educational supports at all 4 of our schools. And then, as you know, our Academic Affairs Committee earlier this winter approved the addition of a strings program beginning in the fall. I'm happy to tell you that we have over 100 students signed up just at the elementary school to start strings in the fall. So we're really excited, and we're in the midst of the interview process right now. And we've got a great pool of candidates interested in joining our music department. In addition to that, as you know, we have an ongoing plan for technology replacement every 4 years so that our students receive new devices every 4 years. We know with the rapid pace of technology advancements, it's important that we don't have the students using really old equipment. This year, it's Erdenheim's turn. And so at our next board meeting, we anticipate bringing a motion forward to you to replace 600 Chromebooks for our students in grades 3 through 5. They have chosen touch Chromebooks. We're excited for that to be a really nice educational transition from Enfield's touch iPads to the middle and high school's traditional Chromebooks. So we'll be bringing that forward. We have selected PowerSchool and Schoology as our new student information system and learning management system. It's our plan to have a transitional year next year where we'll slowly bring those systems into each of our schools and into the district. And we'll obviously have year 2 of the cybersecurity plan. In addition to that, Dr. Johnston has an ambitious and robust plan for curriculum review and revision next year. We have potential adoptions in K-8 math, ELA at the elementary level, science at the elementary level, science at the middle and high school, and K through 12 health and phys ed, in addition to the elementary strings program. I'm not sure when she's going to sleep, but she is optimistic that we can move through this curricular plan. So her budget has been reflected accordingly. I've spoken about the ARP ESSER dollars and how we are continuing to provide what we feel to be really meaningful interventional support, both in math and in special education. And then, as we've discussed, we have some ongoing facilities projects. We have some preventative maintenance, primarily in roofing, that has to happen sooner rather than later. We have the library refresh at the high school. And then we also have some building and field renovations we're excited to bring forward for the middle school. So there's a lot in this budget for what we hope the community will see as a relatively small amount of increased effort financially.
Okay, and this slide, just again, it captures our budget history. It's a 5-year look back. It shows what the final budget approval was in those years, and then it benchmarks it against the audited and actual year to date to show where we landed. And then again, the very important piece that we've stressed throughout all of our finance committee meetings during this budget process is our increases versus the Act 1. So again, as you look, while the increases we've gone up with our tax increases, you'll see that our goal, we're getting farther and farther away from the Act 1 index. So very happy about that. But this gives you a very robust historical outlook of our budget and our audit and where we landed. And again, just a final look back, we are looking for the proposed final budget to be approved this evening. I won't go through the numbers again. There will be a 30-day public posting and review of the proposed final budget from May 3rd until June 5th. The final budget will be presented to be approved at the June 6th interim board meeting. There will be, while it says no anticipated change, one of the things that just came in is our property reduction allocation that gets certified May 1st. So we literally just got the information yesterday evening. So all that does is it shifts the revenue money a little bit from local to state, because that's state pass-through money that then goes to the taxpayers. And that amount is about, I did the calculation, it's about $400 and I believe like $96 as a credit to those eligible homestead, farmstead taxpayers. But that will be formally approved at the final budget. There will be a number of resolutions that will have to be approved to go along with the final budget. In this 30-day waiting period, we can change. The recommendation is this is what the budget will look like, and this is what we are recommending for approval this evening.
So we're happy to answer any questions you have. We know that's a lot of information, but anything at all that we can answer to help clarify anything, to help you make a decision a little bit later on the agenda item, we're happy to answer.
Can I just say that? Thank you, Deanna and the screen and everybody involved. It's clear from all the information that was presented. It's like the image of a little vitamin keep coming back to my head, right? It's sweet to ingest, but packed full of nutrients and good stuff. There was a ton of information here, and you presented it well, and I want to thank you for it. It's easy to see especially the historical data, it's easy to see where this falls in context with what we've done in the past. So I just want to thank you. Anybody else?
I want to reiterate something I said at the finance committee meeting. Just looking back at the historical numbers, I'm always impressed with how far under the Act 1 index the district manages to come. I mean, instead of, we went 0.5%, we went 0.6%. Now we're a whole, 1.1% below the Act 1 index. That index is there for a reason. Somebody has figured out that costs should go up or could go up. And the fact that you've added so much in programming and refreshing technology and whatnot, and still keeping the additional burden on the taxpayers down is fantastic. And I think everybody should just, congratulations and thank you for your hard work.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. I just want to thank Ms. Green. She's the one who works the numbers to make sure that we can make that happen. I want to thank Ms. Kerr, who keeps us on track when we're hiring, to make sure that even with that new SDEA contract, we're able to make sure that we're bringing in great people at a reasonable rate. I want to thank our entire administrative team. Dr. Johnson is working hard to keep our curriculum moving forward. Our technology department under Mr. Oliver is working really hard to make sure that we stay safe. And our building principals responded really well to Ms. Green's plan for zero-based budgeting. We know it's not easy to start from scratch every year, but I like us to justify every penny we're spending. So I appreciate the compliments for the team, and I'll turn that right back to them. And thank you very much for the support. We appreciate it. And the direction. You guys have given us a lot of really clear direction over the course of the year as to what you were looking for. So hopefully we brought what you were looking for.
All right, Dr. Yannick, does that conclude your report, or?
That's the budget report. I have a very brief administrative report with
Please.
some good news for you. The
It's
first,
always welcome.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm really happy to share that our district has been presented the Montgomery County Serves Community Service Award by Giving Tree, a local nonprofit dedicated to teaching children the merits of helping others through service learning projects. We are the 4th district in the county to have every school participate and complete a service project. In all, 626 Springfield students completed 784 projects benefiting area homeless shelters, food pantries, Meals on Wheels, the Boys and Girls Club, and Ruby's Kids. So really impressive, and I was thrilled to get that letter last week. In addition, we're very happy to be hosting the Wissahickon Valley Relay for Life on Saturday, May 20th from 4 to 10 p.m. at Spartan Stadium. Eric Gershman, our high school English teacher and a cancer survivor himself, will speak at 7 o'clock to lead our survivor walk. There will be food and games, opportunities to celebrate our survivors, remember those we've lost to cancer, and raise funds for the American Cancer Society to keep fighting for a cure. Information on the Relay for Life can be found on our high school website, and we hope to see everyone there. Among the items for approval on tonight's agenda is a contract with Kepler Speakers. I'm pleased to announce that we have been successful in scheduling Mr. Kevin Hines to speak with our secondary students and families from across the district on Thursday, May 25th. Kevin is one of the 1% of those who have survived a suicide attempt by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Since his miraculous survival 20 years ago, Kevin has been sharing his message of hope and perseverance with communities. He will speak with our high school students and staff in the morning, our middle school students in the afternoon, and then hold an open event that evening at 5:30 for families and anyone from our surrounding communities. I'll be sending invitations to area districts as well. The event is free, open to the public, and will take place in our middle school library. And finally, two other great events coming up. The Enfield Festival of the Arts is tomorrow night from 4 to 6 p.m. There's some beautiful artwork on display. I was able to preview it this afternoon. I want to thank our wonderful teachers, Mrs. Kesavaramanajam and Mrs. Klein, who've just done a wonderful job in music and art to make sure we're ready for tomorrow night. And then finally, our Special Education Parents Night, the last evening of the year, is this Monday, May 8th at 6:30 p.m. in the middle school library. Dr. Benning, who's done a wonderful job as our interim director, and Mrs. Nicole Schrage will be joined by incoming Director of Student Services, Mrs. Megan Dennis, who is they will all be at the spring information session for parents of students with special needs. It's a wide open event. Everybody's welcome to attend. And again, that'll be in our middle school library on Monday. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yannick. At this time, we'll open it up to public comment. I don't see anyone in the room. Let's check online briefly to see if there are any hands raised. While I'm doing that, I do just want to remind everybody, we've got a 3-minute limit for comments, and I just ask that you identify yourself and where you live in the township. I obviously don't see anyone with a comment in person. I don't see anyone online either. So with that, we'll move on to personnel and HR contracts. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment. But we don't have an attachment presented, do we? So we'll skip that one for now and go right on to our academic affairs motion under consideration, which is that of KidView Incorporated. The Board of School Directors approves the KidView Incorporated days off proposal for the 2023-2024 school year as per the attached. Are there any comments or questions? No? Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Our next item. Excuse me. The Board of School Directors approves the annual appointment of Ms. Samantha Jenko as the treasurer through June 30, 2024. Are there any comments or questions? And a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. That was, of course, the appointment of treasurer. I blew right by academic affairs, pardon me. Sorry, I'm still getting new to this. I'm still getting used to this. Yeah, I'm trying. Forgive me. The Board of School Directors approves the application to the Pennsylvania Department of Education for one Act 80 day to be used for the high school senior calendar, high school morning and afternoon AM and PM VOTEC senior calendars and out of district placed senior calendar. Are there any comments or questions? All right. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is, as Dr. Yannicone said, our motion to approve Mr. Kevin Hines to speak. The Board of School Directors approves a contract for Kepler speakers on behalf of Mr. Kevin Hines for 3 speaking presentations on suicide prevention on May 25, 2023. Are there any comments or questions? All right, do I have a motion? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Next is Comprehensive Learning Center Incorporated Tuition Agreement. The Board of School Directors approves the tuition agreement between Springfield Township School District and Comprehensive Learning Center Incorporated for student 2023-0502-01 for the 2023-2024 school year, which includes services provided during the summer of 2024 in the amount of $119,950. Are there any comments or questions on this agreement? All right, is there a motion? And a second? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is our Capstone Academy LLC tuition agreement. The Board of School Directors approves an agreement between Capstone Academy LLC and the School District of Springfield Township for student 2023-0502-02 for the 2023-2024 school year. Are there any comments or questions? All right, do I have a motion? And a second? All those in favor say aye. And the motion carries. Next is our student settlement agreement. The Board of School Directors approves the student settlement agreement for student 2023-0502-03. Are there any comments or questions? All right, do I have a motion? And the second, thank you, Dr. Tarahasi. Second? All right, thank you, Mrs. Schieble. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Now, getting back to where I left off, we've sort of addressed appointing a treasurer. The Board of School Directors, as recommended by the Finance Committee, approves the following. One is the adoption of the 2023-2024 proposed final budget. And 2 is the advertisement and public inspection of the 2023-2024 final budget from the Pennsylvania Department of Education 2028 and the homestead/farmstead exclusion. Any comments or questions? I know we had a presentation and did some discussion on this. All right. Do I have a motion? And a second? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Now, I want to make sure that we get on record that we have indeed appointed Mrs. Jenko as treasurer. Okay, perfect. All right. I want to make sure I didn't skip over that in my haste. Moving on to property, the Board of School Directors approves the contract with Environmental Control Systems Incorporated for a term through June 30, 2026 for professional engineering, environmental management, consulting, and asbestos control services in connection with our AHERA management plan. Are there any comments or questions? All right, do I have a motion? Second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Did I skip one again?
No, I just wanted to let you know the person was there.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dr. Yannick. Forgive me, I got nervous. I skipped one again. We do have a thank you for the reminder. We do have an addition to the agenda, which is a personnel matter. Dr. Yannick, did you want to?
I just wanted to clarify that
Please do.
the attachment for personnel is there. If you wanted to take a look at it and vote on it this evening, if the board would like to table that for the next meeting, we can certainly do that as well.
All right.
It's a relatively short personnel. I've been reviewing it. So if we take a couple minutes, it's,
Does everybody else feel okay about doing it tonight?
Is there any members of the public virtually?
There are.
We have one, we have two.
Yes, I did make it public.
Yeah, and
Can be seen.
yeah, thank you, Dr. Yannicone. Thank you, Ms. Linsky. It's a good point. And for members of the public, the board agenda is available as a link on the website, so that can be followed along. by members
Maybe
of
we
the
can
public.
just put it in the chat real quick and just give them the opportunity to, take a look at it.
I think that's a good idea. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hughes?
My question is, are we procedurally allowed to approve something that wasn't available to the public for the established time span for?
Yeah, I have a
Okay,
that's a
question as
good
to
question.
whether it was available and then dropped off, or whether it
Gotcha.
was not available.
If
So-
there's no urgency and it doesn't affect any personnel for clean process, then I would suggest we wait till next time. But if there is stuff that is timely, that would hold stuff up.
There's nothing here that can't wait for 2
Was
weeks.
this posted on the agenda 24 hours on the in advance?
The attachment, I can't verify that it was posted. So we can table it.
Agenda items don't know whether it was.
The agenda item was posted. The attachment typically gets loaded 24 hours in advance on Monday.
The actual like motion to approve contract with XYZ. That was posted 24 hours in advance.
Well, the motion
Yes, the
says
motion was
the
posted.
Board of School Directors.
That we're not posting.
Yep.
correct.
Correct.
Legally, we could do it if we wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
The motion actually just says personnel as presented in the attachment. So there's really no information in the motion.
There is no.
Information in the motion itself, it refers to the attachment. The motion refers to the attachment.
So
It's really-
you can tell by looking at the agenda whether or not it involved hiring of
Right, you couldn't.
individual. Well, if
That's right.
that's the case, there's two options. Number one, not to address it and defer it to the next meeting, or the board takes action this evening and says it's an emergent issue that we have to hire these individuals, and you can then post it electronically. So the board could, if it wanted to, take action and say that this is an emergent issue that we need to get these people hired.
All right.
I think.
So in speaking with,
Um,
To do that,
Ms. Carey does not believe that any of these are
Is it
emergent.
a-
It can
okay.
certainly wait 2 weeks if the board would prefer. Not a problem.
My suggestion is let's wait.
Mhm.
2 weeks, but this, we should probably take a vote on. All those in favor? Waiting 2 weeks?
yeah, we'll wait.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's table it for 2 weeks.
Sounds
All
good.
right, thank you very much.
We'll bring it back.
All right. We'll move on then to our public comment on non-agenda items. Again, I don't see anyone in the room who has signed up to speak. This time I'll ask if anyone who is joining us online has any comment they wish to make, please raise your hand. And again, I'll just remind you of our 3-minute time limit, and please just identify yourself and where you live in the township. Don't see any hands raised, so maybe we'll give it another 20 seconds or so. Right, and with that, I want to discuss future meeting dates. There was a regular board meeting on Monday, May 15th. Now, as a reminder, this is a Monday, not a Tuesday. Election day is the next day. That's why we've changed it to Monday. And then our next interim board meeting is Tuesday. We're back on Tuesday. It's June 6th. Future committee meeting dates are May 8th at 5 p.m., which is virtual, which is an academic affairs committee meeting. Property committee meeting is on Thursday, May 11th at 8 a.m., which is also virtual. Again, for property committee on June 1st, 2023, again at 8 a.m., which is virtual. And a policy committee meeting, also virtual, on Monday, June 12th at 8:30 a.m. And with that, before I conclude the meeting, I'll follow Mr. Bedard's lead and just ask if any members of the board wish to say anything. Dr. Yannicon, do you have any closing comments? All right. Thanks very much. Have a great night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.